Hello everyone and welcome to episode 150 of the 10-minute modeling challenge. And this episode I'm going to be doing a bit of a combo because I'm going to do low poly modeling with my Imphenzia PixPal palette texture. Everything's normal, don't worry too much, that's still going to happen. But I'm going to be doing some textures and that's not normally something I do. And since I haven't done it a lot, when I did it I realized it's a pain to set up this thing. It's a pain to set up the texture. It's a pain to bake textures if I want to bake ambient occlusion or a normal map, or if I want to do any other type of textures, the metallic texture or the roughness texture. So do you know what I did? I wrote another plugin for Blender and I've released it. You can actually download it for free, or you can actually add an optional little $1 or $2 to sponsor me for a coffee if you want to do that. But it's totally optional. If you just want to download it and be greedy, go ahead. Just go to that download link in the description and grab it. It's totally free. To be honest, it is. And I'm going to be modeling the barrel. We're going to do a low poly barrel first. I'm going to do my Imphenzia PixPal palette texture of it, and then I'm going to be baking the textures so I can show you how quick it is, how quickly you can do it as well for your models. And why would you want to bake the textures? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First of all, if you don't want all the polygons that you cram in there to get the colors in with the Imphenzia PixPal palette texture, well, then you can bake one. It's a bit of a trade-off. Either you have a lot of polygons and a bit of detail, virtually no texture maps at all. So that saves a lot of space in terms of memory consumption. Or you can flip it around. You can have very few polygons, but then you increase the texture amount. And I think actually these days it's more performant, I think, to just have a whole bunch of polygons, especially with stuff like nanites and stuff. Nanite in Unreal Engine. And even without Nanite, to be honest, Unreal Engine, pick any engine, Godot, Unreal, Unity, they can all render a lot of triangles these days. So I'd argue that you can still use my normal stuff just the way you do it. But if you for some reason want to bake textures, and especially this is good if you want to be able to add even more detail, if you want to paint something on like a sign on there, or you want to have a whole bunch of bolts and little cracks and I don't know, it could be anything like that. If you want to add more detail, well then maybe it's time to bake some textures. So that's what I'm going to be doing. That's a lot of words, a lot of talking from me and not a lot of modeling. So we're going to be changing that right now. Ready, steady, go, and we're off. Yeah, all right, so I'm actually going to delete the default cube. Bit of a crime. Shift A, I'm going to add a mesh cylinder and I'm going to switch it to maybe 12 sides, and then I have to assign my PixPal palette texture. So just go there. Here we go. And then I have to remap all my stuff. So scale 0 on the left and bring this onto some sort of a wood color, maybe around there. So that's going to be the base for the barrel. And now I'm going to do Control R, loop cut it maybe 4 times with the mouse wheel. And then I'm going to select these and Alt S to scale these out a little bit, and Control minus on the numpad, scale that out, so something like this. And then L, it's too fat and wide, so scale Shift Z to scale it. So that's going to be our barrel. And then we need the maybe some like rim edges here. So I'm going to do I to inset, or we can, yeah, I'm going to do I to inset, and then Alt E to extrude long face normals. Bring that down to there. We're still going to get a low poly look on it. Control R loop cut, Control R loop cut. And then I'm just going to Alt select on those edges with Shift, so I get that one too, and then Alt E to extrude long face normals. And this is going to be our low poly barrel. This is the ultimate low poly style. Alt S, scale a little bit more. So that's it. And then I'm going to Shift D to duplicate that one, and now we'll add a lot of detail. So I've got about 9.5 or 7.5, 8.5 minutes. Yeah, I'm spending way too much time thinking about how much time I've got. So Alt select there, Control plus. And then I'm going to bring this one to a bit of a dull metal for a change. Usually I do shiny stuff, but we're going to have some shiny edges too. And then here I'm going to add detail. So actually, this is a painful thing because I want to do, let's see, I want to extrude these, but I want to inset them. But since I've got a whole bunch of stuff, I can't do individual. So I actually have to manually go around and Shift and Control select my way around this thing. So, how painful is this? So there we go. And then now I have to do I to inset, maybe to there, and then Alt S to scale along normals. And then now I'm going to do the other ones here too. So I'm going to have to select this one, Shift select, Control select, Shift select, Shift select, Shift select, Control select, Shift select, and then Shift select, Shift select, Control select, Shift select, Shift select, Shift select, Control select, Shift select, Shift select, Shift select, Control select, Shift select, and Shift select, Control select. I can't even say it. There we go. And then I to inset, and then Alt S. And now I want to select all of these and make these a little bit darker. So I'm going to do Alt hold the Alt key and Alt Shift there, and then Shift G now, and select similar by area. That select all the ones that are similar there. Yeah, that's all good. Apart from these for some reason. So Shift G, select by area. Okay, now it's not grabbing them. Shift G, select by area. Yeah, that's pretty close. So now I'm just gonna bring these down to a darker color. Something, I actually want the other brown there. That one looks a bit more. There we go. And now I'm gonna do, this one's gonna be darker too. How am I doing? 649. So I'm gonna extrude some fake planks here too. So E to extrude, G to move that on. I just want a little bit of a like look on these so they look a bit not so uniform. And E to extrude, G to move that on. And then here we're gonna do some beveling on the metal, Control B, GG to slide, and then color these. I'm gonna change this color to shiny metal. And then same here, GG, slide this whole thing, and then we'll make that whole section shiny. There we go, and down here, maybe there, GG. And then Control Shift B, bevel, get a bit of a shine on there. Something like that. And then this next part is gonna be a bit tedious now because I'm gonna have to add my wood texture type. Here I'm gonna do a bit of a hole too. So I to inset this one, scale it down, and we'll bring it a little bit to the offset to there, and then E to extrude, I to inset, and E to extrude, Control plus, and then just make that darker. And how am I doing? 536. Why is it reflections in my screen there? So I'm gonna put a bunch of bolts here before I do the wood texture too. So Shift D to duplicate that, go to Edit tab, circle. Okay, first I'm gonna right click, subdivide, circle, scale it down. Not bolts, what's it called actually? It's called something else. And G to move it, E to extrude, and E to extrude, S to scale. And then Alt select the length, and I guess they can be the same, yeah. And now I'm gonna change this one to face, and I'm gonna do face project, and actually face project I wanna do, and align rotation to target. Scale it down a little bit. Oh yeah, I have to change this to center too. And then now I should be able to Shift D to duplicate and hold the Control key. Let's see, Shift E to duplicate, hold the Control key. Why is it not aligning? Center, face. Okay, maybe I should Shift E to duplicate. Okay, that was better. I did it wrong. Shift E to duplicate, hold the Control key. Shift E to duplicate, hold the Control key. Hold the Control key. Shift E to duplicate, Shift E to duplicate, hold the Control key. So remember, align with the rotation there, and then center so they actually get sunk in a little bit to the midpoint of the. It's not called a bolt, a rivet or something. Shift E to duplicate, the ice machine's going crazy in the kitchen. Shift E to duplicate, Shift E to duplicate, and Shift E to duplicate, hold the Control key, Shift E to duplicate. This is a bit of a time consuming process, and it doesn't matter that it's not perfect. It's actually better that they're not aligned properly, because sometimes I see a lot of low poly assets and they're like perfectly symmetrical and geometrically aligned, and I think it adds a little bit more character to it when it isn't. So here I'm gonna alter the wood a little bit too. So GG. I've got, when there's 1 minute left, I'm gonna try to bake my texture, see if we can get it UV unwrapped and baked in 1 minute. So I've got 3:40 on the clock left here. So GG, slide this in, make a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna do proportional actually. I'm gonna make it a little bit faster like this. I want this wonkiness of the barrel. Wonky barrel. That's okay. G and GG, GG, and G, and maybe we'll even make this a little bit more uneven like this. Perfectly fine. G, G, and then we'll crack the wood a little bit here too. So Control Shift B to bevel some of these. Control Shift B, and then Control Shift B. 3 minutes. I'm looking at the clock more than I'm usually doing now. So G. And now I'm gonna add some of the wood detail. So K for the knife tool. And I won't have time to do it on all of them, so I'm just gonna add on a few. And when I've noticed that it actually automatically selects the interior if I'm in vertex mode here, which is exactly what I want. I wanted to select all of these inner faces because I'm gonna recolorize them in a minute. And then I'm gonna inset them. So let's see, 2:30, I'm gonna just keep doing this until I've got about a minute left. K, Okay. There we go, and another one here. So this is just to get my normal low poly colorization style, and we're breaking, of course, this high poly mesh now in terms of quad topology. Disaster. If you need therapy after this, perfectly fine. You could do even more knife tool. Like, funny enough, I guess it's called a scalpel tool if we're gonna do surgery. So, but therapy is better than surgery, probably. There we go. 1 minute 52. Okay, one more. And maybe we can even get some details for the normal map here too. So there we go. And now I'm gonna do 3 to go over to phase select. I'm gonna change the color on these to dark, proportional off, and then I to inset. Hopefully I'm not breaking too much, and then Alt S to extrude long phase normals. And I've got 1 minute 27. So now I'm actually gonna do my texture baking. So I'm gonna change this one to darker too. That's gonna be the barrel that we're gonna be baking. And let's see. So I'm gonna rename this one HP for high poly so I know which one's which. F2 on this one and do LP. I've still got about a minute. Here we go. And then I'm gonna select, first of all, I gotta UV unwrap this one. So I'm just gonna do face smart project. I'm getting nervous. I don't normally get nervous because now I've got a proper target here. So there, I'm actually gonna go to pack these two because I see there's a lot of dead space there. So I'm gonna go to UV and pack the islands. And then margin, that's okay, I guess. Pack them, wait 45 seconds. There you go, a little bit better packed. And then enable this one. Select the HP first and then control select LP. I'm gonna go to my Baker plugin and then just gonna click bake. And then we'll wait 32 because I'm going from, it's baking a whole bunch of textures, 2048 by 2048, breaking it down to 1024 by 1024 so I get some stuff. And then now, here we go. And I'm actually gonna just reduce the specularity because it looks a little bit shiny. There we go. And that's our low poly object with a big texture. And you know what? It's even created this material and set up all the textures for you. And we've got 6 seconds to spare. Oh, and we can go even to texture paint and paint these things in a minute. And here are the textures. Phew, okay. Yeah, we made it happened. I'm gonna enable the HP the high poly object and put that to the side. So here's the one we modeled in the 10 minutes. And if I go in, okay, no, I couldn't actually tell them apart. Here's the high poly one. So this one's got the extra polygons, and you could go even super crazy with this now. You can make a billion little knife cuts. You could even go into sculpt mode and do all sorts of sculpting. So we brought the textures back over, and the plugin that I made, I just call it Quick Baker. And if you click on OK here, you can get some information and go to the video. But basically, by default, it just creates a cage around the object and extrudes and offsets that cage a little bit. And then you can bake a diffuse texture, a normal map, ambient occlusion map, the roughness map, metallic, and emission. And then you can save them to disk 2 if you want, because by default, otherwise they wouldn't get saved. I've just unticked that one for now. We don't have any emission in this one, but that would have hopefully worked too. And we can see that it's even baked a bit of the normal map here, so you get some shading. And if you need to improve the edges, you can up the bake quality even further or do the UV unwrapping better. So what's happened is this one, if we switch over, this one is of course using the Imphenzia PixPal palette texture. So all the colors on this one is just by assigning different phases onto the different parts of the UV. That's how I normally work. And to be honest, I'm going to be continuing to doing that a lot for my games. But for some reason, if you do need to texture bake because you need different features, and we can explain why that would be the case, then this is what's being created now. So in the dropdown, first of all, it's created this diffuse map. So this is basically taking the polygons from the Imphenzia PixPal palette texture and then baking that onto a texture. So this is just laid out according to the UV layout there. The next texture is baked, it's ambient occlusion, AO. So it bakes basically like a shadowing effect on it. And if we look in the material, it creates this material that takes the diffuse map and multiplies it by the ambient occlusion. And the benefit here is that we can actually paint a little bit more shading onto it. So we'll do that in the bonus section now. So I can show you what that looks like. The next one that it's baked is this emission map, but this one's black. So because we don't have anything there, we don't have any emission. Metallic we've got because remember I've put on the Imphenzia PixPal palette texture, we put some metallic surfaces on here, even with some extra shine, and it's baked that onto here. And the same goes for the roughness map. It's taken that one and baked it. And then you have the normal map. So if I zoom in, can I get rid of this selection here so I can actually see? There we go. Here we can see that it's baked all those little rivet or whatever you want to call those, it's baked it. The reason why I've got here different resolutions, I've got bake resolution 2048 and then final resolution 1024. And it's because that's the only way I realized that you could get this smooth effect. If I change this one, let's go to 512 by 512. And then I'm just going to rebake these. So Alt-G, I can show you why you would want to do it that way. So I'm going to select the high poly object, Control select the low poly, and then we'll bake them again. Here we go. Now we can see that the normal map here doesn't have any anti-aliasing. So that's the reason why you'd want to bake them. So even if you want a 512 texture, if you bake the resolution higher, let's go to 2048 and then bake it down to 512 or resize it with some filtering. If I bake it again now, hopefully. But then now when we bake it at 2048 by 2048 and then bring it down to the final resolution of 512, we get this little nice effect, which is especially important on the normal map, that we get some anti-aliasing on this. That's why it's there. And now you're free to go into the texture painting tab, and let's change the drop-down texture to the diffuse map. But now I'm going to click on Z and go into material preview mode again. And now you're free to be able to paint on this texture. So I'm going to go, here we go. We don't want to paint red. Let's say I wanted to just add some more wood detail here. I can press Shift X to grab this color, or on the left side, I can change from view to paint. Press Shift X here too, and now we can just do whatever painting we want. If I want to right click and do strength a little bit lower, radius a bit lower, maybe all the way down to, let's bring it down to like 5 or something. And then Shift X and grab that color, and now I can start to add more like detailed cracks or something. So this is, if you really want to add a lot of detail now and hand paint this one, then here's where the Imphenzia PixPal palette texture is no good. If you want to do traditional looking, then maybe you could use this the Baker as a bit of a helper tool to get you started. Because now we can paint even, I guess there wouldn't be much paint peeling on an object like this, but I can go Shift X is the picker tool if you want to pick a color from your palette already. I've actually pressed something to pick the line tool now. Shift, how did I do that? I've got some smoothing on now. So that's cool. How do I get that off? I pressed a hotkey by mistake and I don't know what I pressed because I never texture paint. So how did I put on smoothing? Yeah, maybe Shift S. Oh yeah, Shift S. Okay, that's a new hotkey. So Shift S if you want to do if your hand is shaking like crazy when you want to do something, if you press Shift S, apparently you can enable this bit of a like a smooth tool. Oh, that's interesting. So if you need to make something really nice and like circular, for example, you can use Shift S. That's a new one for me, at least. Same thing if you wanted to paint some Shift S. Now I'm obsessed with Shift S here. So why is it not doing anything when I'm painting here? Let's see, I can paint there, but I cannot paint on here. Okay, I can. It's just the color. Maybe it was the wrong color. Shift X, grab a dark. Oh, okay. I need a darker color, so go down to here. Now we can put some. And if you want to put some fake like wear and stuff, I can do that. And then we'll do Shift X to pick, or I'll go on a brighter one. And then now we can paint some fake here. You can even paint a lot of fake stuff there. Get a little bit extra shine on there. And then remember now that you've got this one too, the AO texture. So this is, if you just want to introduce some shading, I'm going to switch this one to a dark one. I'm going to increase the radius a little bit, lower the strength and quite a lot, and increase the radius. Now I can just paint like shadow at the bottom here. Maybe that's a little bit too much actually. I'll bring the strength down even more and paint a little bit like this. And then same here, if I wanted to put some fake shadowing, I'm going to bring the strength down even more, radius down, and then you can paint here. So I'm not affecting the diffuse map now at all. It's just painting it onto this ambient occlusion texture. So we get like a shadow effect here. And it's multiplying that in the shader. So if you want to bring this one, you could either combine these in the end. If you don't want to have a separate ambient occlusion map, you could always combine these two at some stage later on in your process too. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I suck at painting textures, but You know, maybe that's something I could practice. Another good thing now is if you want to have stuff like let's put a label on here. So I'm going to put change this to white. I'm going to bring the texture back over. If you could select it here. Also, it depends on which one you have selected in here. So if I select this one, that's another shortcut to pick the texture I want to paint on. And then I'll bring the strength up and then just going to paint a sign here. And we're on pretty low resolution on this texture. I should have probably kept it a little bit higher for more detail. And then now bring the radius down and just do, oh, that's way too small. There we go, exclamation mark. So now we can put some signs on there. Because this is a little bit more difficult to do with the PixPal palette texture to get, like if you need a lot of extra detail, then now you're free to do that. And then again, if I do the copy, you can see this one, Control Tab and G to move this one. So here is our high poly one, and here is our low poly one. When I developed this Baker plugin, I created this chest. I've done a whole bunch of chests in my 10-minute modeling challenges in the past. I've actually done 3 of them, believe it or not. Some are called treasure chests, some are just called chests. I don't know why I'm a little bit obsessed with these, but I guess it's like it's a traditional game assets to do. So I created this one, which is it's using, again, the Imphenzia PixPal palette texture to get the metal shine on here, and I'm using smooth by angle. If I disable this one, you can see that it's got smoothing on, and I'm smoothing it by angle. You can right click on an object and do shade auto smooth here, or shade auto smooth. That will bring that one on. And then you can, if you're unhappy with some of the stuff, you could apply this one and select which should be. Actually, you can press Control A on it. Now you can see all the edges that it's picked to become sharp, but I'm gonna keep it like this one for now. And then I'll show you the process that I did too. To get this one from high poly to low poly, you don't necessarily have to do the low poly version first. Now when I've got this one with all the detail, I'm going to press Shift, or actually, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to press Shift A, and then I'm going to add just a cube, and then I'm going to press Control 3 on the keyboard, and then I'm going to press Control A on this one and apply it. Tab into edit mode, and scale this one up and bring it up so it just encloses there. And now I'm going to put a shrink wrap modifier on it. So deform, shrink wrap. And I'm going to pick the chest combine, and that brings it down. And I'm going to apply this shrink wrap modifier now. I'm going to hide the original chest. And now we can see it's, so it's wrapped it really nicely around it, but now we can decimate it. So I'm going to add a modifier, generate, decimate. And then if I do this one, actually I'm going to enable so you can see, if I do the drop down up here and do wireframe, we can see. So if I slide this one down, it subdivides it down, but I get these little pinching ones that I didn't like. So if you do unsubdivided for this one, since I used a subdivided cube to begin with, I can actually subdivide this one. And if I just bring the iterations all the way up to iterations 4 here, I'm bringing it down to 24 face counts, and it's really nicely wrapped around, and I'm going to apply that one. So now we've got the high poly one here, and the low poly one that I just created matches really well. One thing that I did notice is that you see this sharp edge that I've got here, and on my high poly chest, then it's a bit of a bevel here, and you can get some artifacts on your normal stuff. Actually, you know, I'm going to show you so you don't run into this issue, because it wrecked my head a little bit. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to call this one LP just for low poly. I'm going to make a copy of it, Shift D to duplicate it, hide that one, and then we have to UV unwrap this one. So I'm just going to do the quick one. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, UV, and then just smart UV project with a bit of a margin. You want to have a margin because if you're going to use your asset in a game engine, there's something called MIP mapping, which is for distant object. It takes the texture maps and reduces the size of them down. And as it scales it down, if you don't have a margin, the textures will start to bleed over to one another. So you don't want that. That's the reason why you want to have a margin there. So now I'm going to, let's see, with texture unwrapped it, or UV unwrapped it, I'm going to go into the UV editing tab so you can see it. And scroll it in. So select the high poly first, control click the low poly, put the Baker one up, and then accept everything as default, and then bake textures. And now you might see why we'd want to apply some smoothing to the low poly object before we bake the textures. Here we go. I'm going to hide the chest combined. So this is our low poly object now. Okay, here's it. It wasn't as obvious. Last time I got it really prominent, like here. But now I'm getting it down here, this line here. So to get rid of some of those artifacts, what I did was, and you probably want to do this too, do some smoothing. So I'm going to cancel that one, bring this one up. And then you see these sharp edges here now, we're gonna get rid of those. So Shift D to duplicate this one again, and then I'm gonna right click and shade auto smooth. And then go into this one and Control A to apply it and tab into edit mode. I'm gonna remove these sharp edges now. We don't want these to be sharp anymore. So Shift select these, right click, and then do clear sharp. That's what I wanted to do. So now it looks smooth over the edge here. And now if I go back here and we'll bake it one more time, select the high poly, Control select the low poly, bake the textures. Okay, I need to do the UV unwrapping first. Tab into edit mode, Smart UV project with a margin, unwrap. Select, Control select, and then bake textures. Now if I hide the high poly, we can see that that line that was slicing across there, since we've got smooth shading there, that's gone. But then you might get some other artifacts instead. Then maybe it looks a little bit like bulgy here. So play around with the low poly object. You'd probably want to have it a little bit more high poly than this one. If I look on this one, I think this one has got a little bit of a flatter shape at the top. So this one turned out better. If I do, let's try that one too. So I'm going to select the combined, Control select the low poly, bake textures. But it's still got the sharp edges here and the smooth around the top of the lid here. And now when that one's finished, I'm going to take the high poly one, just move that one to the side there. And then side by side we have if I switch on wireframe again, we can see these are all the polygons for this one. And on this one, we've only got those ones there. And you're free to be able to paint on this one now and do what you want with those textures. So that's what this plugin does. It's called Quick Baker. Go to the link in the description if you want to download this one. I'm reworking my website a little bit, so I'm trying to add a little bit more clarity to the different stuff that I've got on offer there. But the Quick Baker plugin and the Unreal Prepper plugin, those two you can download for free. So just go to the website, link in the description, and grab those. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to make both the plugin and to create this video. And give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and come back for another video again shortly. Until next time, have a great one, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.